Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome back. I'm Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections, and your host of this episode of the Networking RX podcast. Thanks for listening, subscribing, and referring others. Today we have another guest with us. But before we get started, I want to remind you we're looking to add quality people to our stable of franchisees. This is a unique franchise opportunity in that it's geared for aspiring entrepreneurs or professionals to add on to what they're already doing. Again, all of our franchisees do something else for just a couple hours in the morning, a few mornings a week. Our franchisees operate the AmSpirit Business Connections program. The rest of their week, they're accountants, attorneys, financial advisors, realtors, coaches, and consultants of every kind. Interested? Contact me. There's an email in the show notes, or you can use one that we provide at the end of the podcast. All right, like I said, we have a guest with us today. I've got Mary Jenkins here. Mary Jenkins is the founder, CEO of Christians Overcoming Cancer. Welcome, Mary.
Welcome, Frank. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's great. I want you to share a little bit with our listeners about who you are and what Christians Overcoming Cancer is about.
I am a 2-time breast cancer survivor. And when I got diagnosed with cancer in 2006, I started doing chemotherapy. And soon after I started, I got laid off from work. And when I got laid off, I needed help paying some bills. And I went to the Susan G. Komen Foundation to get help and found out that they don't use their money to actually help people pay their bills. They fund research, treatment, and awareness. So it started me on a journey to find help, and I was unable to find it. I ended up at my church venting about the fact that I was about to lose everything, and my pastor overheard me, and he offered to have the church pay my bills for the rest of the time that I was in treatment. But my thought was, who's going to help everybody else? And he said, well, who's going to help everyone? I said, well, you know what? I think I'm going to tell people where money goes and where money doesn't go in the world of cancer. And as I began telling people that, people started giving me money. And I said, yeah, you can give it to me. I'll find someone to give it to. And so for the last 13 years, I've had the privilege of raising money to help people that have cancer pay their bills while they go through treatment. And that is what I am 100% passionate about.
Okay, so 100% of the money that you guys raise, none of it goes to research, but all of it goes to supporting people who are battling cancer.
Well, supporting the organization, which, because we have overhead,
sure,
which is not a lot at all. And so we probably about 91 cents of every dollar that we raise. We don't have any paid staff. Everybody volunteers their time, including myself. And we just raise money to help people when they need it most.
Okay, now who are the services for? If it says Christians Overcoming Cancer, do you need to be Christian?
No, you don't need to be Christian.
Okay.
So the reason that we're Christians Overcoming Cancer is because the Christian principle is judge not, lest ye be judged.
Okay.
And so we don't want to judge because cancer doesn't judge. Cancer doesn't care a person's race, their gender, their preference, their marital status, their income status, their race, their religion, or any of those things, and neither do we. So we are Christians Overcoming Cancer. So anybody, as long as they're in active treatment and they have a need, that's all they have to be.
This is a podcast. It's about networking, so we're certainly going to delve into networking. I would imagine that you have grown this and networking's played a huge role. Is that a fair statement?
That is a 100% fair statement.
My understanding in looking into this is that you have helped people in all 50 states.
Correct.
How do you find these people? How do these people find you? How do you find donors?
Well, we'll talk on two separate sides.
Okay.
First, let's talk about the people. When people battle cancer and they have needs, they go online and they Google financial assistance cancer. We come up as an option. We also are the ones that the American Cancer Society refers people to. So when someone contacts the American Cancer Society and says they need help, they say, hey, contact this group because they should be able to help you. So we get referrals from the American Cancer Society, the Komen Foundation, the Patient Advocate Foundation, St. Jude, MD Anderson, Cancer Centers of America, insurance companies, hospitals, you name it. So they find us. We don't have to worry about finding anybody, so they find us. Then on the other side, as far as people, our sponsors, our donors, people that give us money, I am willing to do anything that's legal, moral, and ethical. And I have no problem asking, because at the end of the day, people can raise millions of dollars to fund cancer research, which research is good, because without it, I wouldn't be here. However, there are men, women, and parents of children battling cancer that are making the decision whether to go to work or be treated. And, when you think about a child battling cancer, mom and dad should not have to decide who's going to be at the hospital with little Johnny or little Jane while one goes to work. And so our job is to find, we just need people. So everybody is a potential. And it's just a matter of, hey, can you help me? And if you will, great. And if you won't, why not? So,
in talking with you leading up to this, you had indicated that you do a fair amount of fundraising through trade shows, for lack of a better term. Beauty industry, is that?
The hair and beauty industry, yes.
Okay, maybe share a little bit about that, how that all came about. That's an interesting story.
So the hair and beauty industry has become our number one source, our fundraising campaign. And the way that it happened is I was in Texas, and a gentleman happened to walk past me and said, "Aren't you Mary Jenkins?" And I said, "Yes." And like, "Do I know you?" And he said, "It's me, Chris." And I'm like, "Chris who?" And he explained that it was Chris from Facebook. So Facebook, just him recognizing me, made it possible. Well, he took me in this room, and there had to been about 2,000 people in there. And there was a gentleman on stage that was telling his story about how he battled cancer. And if it hadn't have been for his friend Sean that was helping him pay his bills while he was going through treatment, he probably would have been a barber then. And that gentleman, his name's Curtis Smith, and you can look him up. He's with the company Exotics. Well, Curtis and I ended up having a conversation. And as we talked more, he was like, people need to hear about what you're doing. So then he invited me to come speak to his network of people. And by me going and speaking to them, then they were moved by what we did. And then they introduced me to their network of people, who have introduced me to their network of people, who you scroll forward. And now I have literally shared the Christians Overcoming Cancer message to hundreds of thousands of people over the last 10 years.
Well, to clarify, Curtis is a stylist or a barber to the stars, correct?
Yes, Curtis Smith is a celebrity barber. And when he was going through treatment, when he first became a barber, before all that, he got diagnosed with cancer and he couldn't go to work. And so his friend Sean helped him pay his bills.
And
Sean? The Sean that he was talking about was Sean P. Diddy Combs. And so I was like, oh my goodness, this guy is like authentic. So should he say anything to me, I need to make sure that I listen, because he has contacts that I would love to one day be in front of. And I thought that just being connected that way was going to be awesome. But really, he connected me to a whole new group of people that made it possible for us to have individuals helping support the cause around the world.
What sort of setbacks have you had with Christians Overcoming Cancer, and what are things that you've done to overcome them?
Well, one of the main setbacks that we had was the fact that, after 6 years of building the organization, I decided to have reconstruction surgery. That reconstruction surgery almost killed me, not because of the procedure itself, but because of the physician that did it. She didn't have the credentials to fix if something went wrong. And what could have gone wrong went wrong. And so it almost killed me. It took me out of the game of raising money and really helping people on a big scale for almost a year. Then I developed heart failure after that, and that took me out for a year. Then I developed diabetic ketoacidosis. So for the last 7 years, I've had health challenges, but still tried to run the organization and still raised money while going through treatment. I've had doctors that would say things like, we're trying to put an IV in your neck so you can go have surgery. Can you get off your phone long enough to do it? Because I was just focused. So those are setbacks. Then the lady that was working with me directly, she got diagnosed with cancer, and she unfortunately passed away. And her name was Andrea Myers, and she was just phenomenal. So we had to go through that rebuilding process, but through it all, we've been able to maintain a baseline because of the Hairstyles and Beauty for Hope campaign, because the people still wanted to support us, even though I couldn't always be there.
So essentially your network rallied around you when
Yes.
you weren't able to do what you needed to be doing.
Yes.
Where do you see this 5 years from now?
Where do I see this 5 years from now? 5 years from now, I believe that we will have a building, and we will have the initial infrastructure put in place to have a call center. And not just a regular call center, but one where people can contact us from around the world if they're in treatment. And then we have people in place that are trained to help connect the individual to the resources. So not like, and I'm just using it because it's what they do, the American Cancer Society will send you a bunch of paperwork and then you have to call to find out if they have services that are available. We don't want to do that. We want to have the people with us and we will make the calls because we'll know what's available. And that way it will help the person. So the person has an ally, or like a trusted partner. We're doing it together versus them doing it on their own. So in 5 years, I see us having that in place, the basic infrastructure, knowing what it's really going to look like and beginning to unveil the fullness of it.
Couple questions. I always like to insert these so I don't forget them. One, somebody's listening. They want to contact you. How would they contact you?
They can contact me several ways. They can contact me by email, which is mary@christiansovercomingcancer.com. And yes, it's long. They can contact me by cell phone, which is my real cell phone number. And that is 614-805-1253. Text first, or they can leave a voicemail message. They can call the office, which is 614-516-0966. They can look me up on Facebook because I am really me, Mary Jenkins. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. And so they can find me.
Yeah, you're a lot of places.
I am.
If somebody wanted to make a donation, well, how would they go about doing that?
They can either make two ways. They can make it on our website, which is christiansovercomingcancer.com, or they can do it via PayPal, which is paypal.me/THECOC.
Money's great. Cash is king. What are some things that people might be able to help with beyond just donating money?
Things that people can also help with, especially if they're in the hair and beauty industry. So when a person's going through treatment and they lose their hair, especially women, they love to get wigs. And so we look for barbers or stylists, people that can make those units, and we partner with them. So if someone in their city needs something, we can refer them to get that done. We also like for people to just make a commitment, because my thought is if I can get everyone to donate $5 once a month, that could fund the organization tremendously. And that's let's get the little guy involved also, because someone may not have $1,000 to donate or 10,000 or 5,000, whatever, but they can do $5 once a month. And if you have 1,000 people giving $5 a month, that's $5,000.
Adds up.
It adds up.
Okay, this is kind of out of left field, and I hope I don't catch you off guard, but are there some stories you'd like to share? Just some examples of how Christians Overcoming Cancer has helped people.
I'll tell you the story that helped make me know that this was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. While I was going through treatment, so this is in 2006, there was a lady who was also in treatment, and we were having chemo. Her husband was knelt down beside her, and he was crying. And I watched them, and I said, that's unusual to see a husband crying, in public and everything. And so when I finished my chemo session, I went over to them, and I asked him, was he okay? And he looked at me, and he said, we hope we will be. And I asked what was wrong. He explained that his wife had a reaction to the chemo. And normally what they did after she had treatment was they would get a hotel room, and they'd spend the night and then leave the next day because she'd feel a little stronger. They had ran out of money, and they didn't have any money. I still get emotional behind it. They had contacted people and asked for help, and no one would help. No hotel. There was no group that would offer them assistance. And so he was crying, and he was saying he was sorry because they were going to have to sleep in the car. And I was there. And so I told him, I said, you don't have to worry about it. I'm going to help you. Give me a hug. And so I hugged him, and I reached in my purse, and I pulled out a bunch of money, because prior to, I was telling people where money went and where it didn't, and people were giving me money, and I was like, well, I'll just find someone to give it to. And here was a couple that needed money for a hotel room. I don't even know how much I gave them. All I know is that they were screaming, oh, thank you, God, thank you. And I was like, I could do this for the rest of my life. And I knew then. So that's the one story that, if I don't even know how much I would have dove in had that not happened, but I knew I wanted to do that. Then was a time when we started dealing with with families that have children. There was a little girl from Toledo, Ohio, who was life flighted with her mother from Toledo to Children's Hospital here in Columbus because she had been in treatment. She was fine, got sent home, and then she had a relapse. So she got life flighted back to Columbus, and they went through treatment. They finished treatment, and she was stabilized and was able to go back home. But they didn't have any way to get home because they were life flighted. And the hospital wasn't going to provide transportation, and there was nobody that did. And so the hospital told the family told the mother that she would need to find someone. She called her mother, who was the little girl's grandmother, that was disabled, and was going to have the grandmother drive from Toledo to Columbus to pick the mom and the little girl up. Well, somebody in Children's Hospital said, if you need a ride, there's only one organization that's going to be able to help you. Christians Overcoming Cancer. I know them personally. Here's her phone number. So they called me, and I was heated that they would not have, because I'm like, you guys do the Cure Kids Cancer Radiothon, just raised $260,000. How come you can't help this family get home? Long story short, I contacted a friend of mine that worked at Yellow Cab, and I talked to the people and asked them if we could negotiate a price for them to drive the little girl and her mom home. And for $345, we cover the cost to get the family back to Toledo.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I guess that underscores another question, or it begs another question, I should say, and that would be, you're covering hotel rooms, you're covering cab rides, you're covering rent. I guess kind of without every story, a litany of different things, or is it just endless?
What makes us different than every other cancer organization out there, even the ones because there are ones out there that will offer some support, we say, tell us what it is that you need help paying. And then we'll go to work. We're going to verify it because we want to make certain that it's an authentic expense. We verify that the person's in treatment, verify the need, and then we pay the bill. So we don't give people money. And it's whatever they say they need help with, because they know. If I only offer housing, but they need utilities, I can't help them. But if they tell me I need help with utilities, I can help you. I need help with, taxes on my house and I risk getting my home foreclosed, we can help you. If my car broke down and I've got a flat tire and need tires, or I need brakes, or whatever it is the person says they need help with, tell us what it is, and we will raise the money and help them pay the bill.
Well, I really appreciate you being in here. One more time, your contact information.
The website, ChristiansOvercomingCancer.com. The office phone number, 614-516-0966. My cell phone number, 614-805-1253. And my email is mary@ChristiansOvercomingCancer.com.
This was awesome. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.